in Tech Singapore itself is a global organization. So this is kind of the world map view, right? We were founded in San Francisco, I think it was 2007. I suppose Singapore being the headquarters for a lot of different STEM initiatives and companies, it's important for us to have a presence here as well. But as you can see from the screen, we've got more than 100,000 members. There are 60 chapters. We each have our own programs, but every year uh, our HQ kind of creates a curriculum. So for 2019, for example, we're going to have a bit of a focus on coding, which is going to be very interesting because we want to help people learn coding for the first time. And these will be young women like yourself, as well as those who have just started working in professional life. So it's really important for us to do these kinds of things or this kind of curriculum because it means that we're helping people to kind of get into STEM at any point in their career, whether they're in school or they've just started a new job or they've been working for 20 years. Maybe your parents have had the experience and they're thinking of switching jobs, or some women even come to us and say, I've been working for 20 years in finance, I want to start programming. So we want to be the group that actually allows you to kind of explore all of these options. Everything we do in Goals in Tech is really it revolves around this idea or our mission of accelerating the growth of innovative women in technology around the globe. We want to inspire women. We want to share what we know, and we also want to make sure that women speak up for themselves. But what's important to us is that we have a core group of women and girls who keep coming to our events, who want to engage, who want to learn, who want to understand how to get educated in STEM and continue onwards to STEM careers. I went to school in Singapore, which is, as everyone knows, very competitive, very results focused. And I did well in school when I was younger, but as I got older, I was not much older than you. I think when I started failing in school, and I was very upset, and I thought, am I not smart anymore? Is there something wrong with me? And I wasn't very interested in maths or science, which is I realize now I should have tried harder, but there's also something to be said for how we are taught math and science. But I kind of left school pretty early for a Singaporean and started working full time instead because my family wasn't so well off, and we needed to kind of support ourselves. When I had the opportunity, to go back to school, I was already doing full time work, so I kind of had to do um, double duty there. I went to work in the morning and then I went to school at night. And that's when I realized that, STEM is actually not just maths, it's not just science, right? It can mean supporting um, technology in different ways, right? You could help people to find jobs in technology, for example. You could support engineering teams to build product by making sure that they have the right kind of employment or they've got the right kinds of teams, for example. So that was what I started doing working in HR. I looked out for startups.
Yeah.
I looked out for tech teams. So one of my favorite jobs that I had in 2014 was working with the people who made Candy Crush, and there actually supported engineering and design teams, right? So if you ever wondered who actually designs levels in games, there's a group of people whose job is specifically to map out how difficult a game level is. And it's really interesting to be on the sidelines of that because you get to understand how things are built. At the same time, you also kind of build up on your own wisdom, right? You understand the power of technology and how it gives people jobs. Because in Singapore and in the Candy Crush team, I've met people who, were incredible artists, right? They could sculpt with clay, they could draw with, computers, they could draw by hand, they could paint, and they're working in STEM, right? So it's this. It's not even STEM anymore. It's STEAM, I guess, because you're creating art along with it as well. And that's when I started getting really excited about STEM. I was like, oh, this is great. I wish I had stayed in school. I wish I had, done all of those science subjects that I thought were boring. Um, and I did think it was boring. But as I kind of got on a few years ago, I actually got really sick, and it forced me to take time off from work. Right, sitting around, didn't know what to do. I'm very restless. But when I found Girls in Tech, I just really wanted to spend a bit of time volunteering.
Yeah.
and seeing how I could help someone else, right? So for me, it was actually about looking to Wan Ting and Jocelyn and Robin on the Girls in Tech board and saying, hey, if you need help, registering people for an event or, organizing the catering, as long as I can sit in for free, I'm happy to help out, right? So
Mhm.
that's how it started for me. Um, I wake up really early on Saturdays now and I do emails and events for Girls in Tech, and I really enjoy it because I know that um, the best things in life are free, and one of those things is actually giving back to women and making sure that we all move up together. Parents, other men. I'll start with my parents first. So my parents were not very well educated. They were happy when I left school to go and work because they felt like the earlier their generation was, the earlier you went out to work, the more useful you were to society. So when I did it, they didn't feel like there was anything wrong with that. But I looked around me and I had friends whose parents were like, go to university, do engineering, and these were goals. Right, so I felt like something's off. I don't know what that is. So for me, it wasn't that my parents discouraged me from going into STEM. They didn't care, right? So that there's one thing to be said for parents who would nag you and go like, oh, Vibhuti, you should be a lawyer or you should go do finance, not STEM. STEM is not for women.
Yeah.
But there's also something to be said for parents who don't care at all, and they're like, whatever you do, we'll still be proud of you, right? So nowadays, my parents are like, yeah, we know you earn money and you do really well for yourself, but when are you gonna get married? So parents have different issues. At work, though, I think it's really important to understand as well that as a woman in STEM, as a girl in STEM, right? People everywhere along your way, people are gonna start discouraging you. They'll say things like, "Oh, are you sure you wanna go get a PhD? It's gonna be an extra, I don't know, 5 years on top of your masters. Like, oh, are you sure you wanna try to do this job because it's not what your degree was in. It might be too challenging for you." I used to have bosses who told me that I shouldn't try to do more than what I was told to do. And when I said, "Oh, I'm trying to do more and work with more people," so that I can help our team, and so I can learn how to do my job better. Because if you don't know enough about, let's say, an engineering team, right, or what work they're doing, then you can't really help them get the things that they need in terms of, let's say, equipment or access to certain apps and platforms, things like that. But I've had managers who said that to me. They're like, oh, you shouldn't try to work outside of your scope. You should just do the things that I tell you to do and not do more than that. So there'll be people like that who will challenge you, and I would say that um, try not to let that get to you. Right, we need to be very strong emotionally, and listening to other people can be useful if they want to help. So yeah, I think the challenges are both uh maybe cultural, societal for sure, because parents and people around you, but definitely from a professional perspective as well, there'll be people who will be very negative. So one of the biggest challenges is kind of negative statements. You can't do this. What you should be telling yourself in your head is that, yeah, I can. I'll tell you what, I'll be stubborn and I'll show them that I can do this, right? And it's not about showing them, actually, it's about showing yourself that you can do it. So one of the things that I find I'm very grateful for now is the fact that I'm actually very stubborn, right? So when someone says you can't do that, I'll say, yeah, okay, watch me, and then I'll go do it. So some of the things that I've done, like getting the job that I really want, or doing something really difficult, or sending that email to somebody really high up in my organization who is really scary for other people. Those are situations where I've challenged myself, and I tell myself in my head like, oh, they say that you can't do it. Well, you can and you should, right? And then you go out and do it. Of course, you'll need help from people. Sometimes it's important. Um, you read about this a lot, where as a woman, it doesn't matter what age, you need to have people around you that you can trust to tell you whether you're being stubborn in a good way, which is to challenge yourself, or you're being stubborn in a bad way, which is to I guess pick fights when it's not a good fight. 20% of boards in Singapore have women on them. But that's not the case in other countries, right? So we should actually be trying to bring this up. So while Asian culture actually encourages women to be leaders, we need to start doing more and saying we want technical women, right? I don't think we should stop. at yeah, we have women is good. People were like, oh, you shouldn't be so bossy, you're not going to get the promotion because people think you're too aggressive. It's the bossy kid, right? And I felt like people were telling me to keep quiet and wait for others to reward me, but that's a very passive behavior, right? So it's time for us, I think in Singapore, one of the problems that we have is actually to start rewarding people who are bossy, because when you do a side by side comparison of men and women who might be called bossy, the men are going to get promoted like 9 times out of 10 for being bossy. The woman gets promoted like 1 time out of 10. So yeah, the two problems that I think we have is that there are not enough technical women in leadership positions in Singapore, and the second thing is just this concept of, and I think it comes down to Asian culture,
Yeah.
how women should be seen and not heard, and I'm like, no, women should be seen and heard, right? They should be able to kind of make things happen. If I looked at myself 10 years ago as a girl in tech, and I could give myself some advice, would be try and find some friends early on. Don't think that you're alone in all of this, because there are people who will help. You just need to find them.